Hello everyone, thank you for attending this webinar on invoicing and the LEAP timesheet. My name is Megan Purcell and I am an implementations consultant at LEAP. I like to spend my days visiting our clients to make sure that they're using LEAP in the most efficient way as possible. So today I would like to take you through that process of invoicing, and I'm also going to run you through the LEAP timesheet, but also some reports that you could utilise at the time of generating your invoices. And I'll also take you through how you can auto-subscribe to those reports, so they just email you when you want them emailed to you. So we'll go through all of that in today's webinar. All right, so from our matter list, I'm going to go into a matter where I want to generate a bill. So just double clicking and opening up the matter like you normally would. Okay, now to access the timesheet, you can do this from up the top of your matter screen. If I just move this matter screen just a little bit down, you'll be able to see you've also got a timesheet link at the top of your matter list. Okay, so clicking on either of these buttons will launch your LEAP timesheet. Okay, so once that's open, you'll be able to see that it has already started a time entry for the matter that I'm currently in. So the only difference with going into the timesheet from your matter list, so if I just come back to here, if we click on the timesheet up here, it's going to still launch the timesheet. The only difference will be it wouldn't have started the entry for you because it doesn't know what matter you're going to be working on. Okay, so what we've got here, we've got some relevant columns, and now I'll show you very shortly how you can also customize your columns. So for example, if you didn't want to see the time elapsed or you wanted some additional columns in there, I can show you how to customize those. You can also move your columns around. So, you know, if you wanted the date further down the list there, then I can show you how you can do that as well. Okay, so it just brings you to the first field that you need to complete. So what you can see here is the timer has already started to run from the moment I launched the timesheet. We've got the date. The matter number has already pre-populated because we opened the timesheet from this particular matter. Here's our client's name, and this is the matter description. So it brings us straight over to the activity code. Now, the activity codes are your shortcuts that relate to your billing description. So if you're utilising the timesheet on a daily basis, which is great, you will get to know the activity codes that you commonly use. So if I just start typing in the letter L, okay, I've got some options here and I can select from it there. Or if you don't know the activity codes, you can hit Control F for find on your keyboard and it will present you with the entire list of activity codes that you've set up here. Okay, so you can select it from here by double clicking. You can see it's brought in the activity code, and then we've got the billing description, which is court appearance. Now, the billing description field is the field that will populate onto your client invoice. So you can, of course, expand the description. Okay, so court appearance for motion, let's say. Okay, so this is where you can customize your description. And we just use the tab key on your keyboard to tab across this row. So you've got the units in there. So every firm is different in relation to units. Most firms are set up as 6-minute units. Okay, so having 1 unit in there, I can then change that to 10, which will be an hour. Okay, so it then changes the hours quantity. We've got the hourly rate in there, and then the value, which is the value of this particular entry. Okay, then we've got use rate here. So this column has been customised and I've brought it into my timesheet. This will be very handy if you have several billing rates. So if you've just got the one standard billing rate, you won't need the use rate column. Okay, tabbing over, this is your billing status. So is it billable on the next invoice? You can change it to billable at a later invoice, or is it not billable work? So you can change that there. And then entered by, so it'll just pop in the initials of the person who's entered the time entry. So tabbing one more time, you can see that that time entry has now turned green. And all that means is it's now available on the ledger, ready for you to bill it. Okay, so what we can do is we can click anywhere in that top entry, and then you can click on Open Matter. All right, and it will flick you back to your main screen and then present that matter. It'll bring it to the front of the screen for you. Okay, so if we just navigate back down to the timesheet, all right, you can then come through and start recording your time entry for your next task. Okay, so you pop in your matter number. All right, across you go, and you continue with entering in that information. Now, a few things that you can do. If you don't want the timer running, you can just simply hit Start Stop Timer, or you can click this play button over here. Okay, so clicking on that, it then stops the timer, okay, and then you can manually put in the amount of units. All right, there are various settings for the timesheet as well. So if you're not a fan of the timer at all and you don't want the timer to run upon opening of the timesheet, you can navigate up to Tools, down to Options, and you can simply untick Start Timer on a new time or fee. Okay, and then that just means every time you create a time entry, the timer won't be running and you can manually add in the amount of units. Now, I spoke about before customizing your columns. Okay, so you can do that from View at the top left, come down to Format Columns. All right, this is what we've currently got selected, and these are some other available columns. So for example, if you only had the one hourly rate, you don't need to utilize the Use Rate column. So if that was appearing in your timesheet, you can highlight it and just send it back over to the right, and that means it's going to be gone from my timesheet. So the column customization, it is user preference. So you don't have to have your timesheet looking the same as everybody else within your firm. Okay, you can customize it exactly how you want it to look. Now, in terms of reordering the columns, you've got up and down here, so you can just move your columns. If you wanted to move billing up and so forth, you can do the rest of them by reordering them there. All right, if we click OK there, you can see it's reloaded my timesheet with those changes that I've just made. Okay, up the top left here where we've got new entry, you can click the drop down, okay, and you've also got some other options here. So a new entry, time and fee for the last matter, that means it'll just bring in the matter details, so you're not having to put in the matter number. If you wanted another time entry which was identical or very similar to the previous one, you can select time fee, copy current, and it will pretty much give you a duplicate of the time entry you've just saved. Okay, so there's a few options there. With the date, you can also click the drop down and you can select a date range from here. You can also filter it so you can see what you've done that week and also in the month. All right, down the bottom here, whatever matter you're clicked on, okay, it'll load the last couple of entries that has been entered onto this matter, together with just a bit of a summary over here so you can see the matter number, the client information, and also the unbilled WIP, any debtor balance, and any money that you're holding in trust for this particular matter. You've also got a performance over here, so this will show you what you've billed, or sorry, what you've recorded onto your timesheet for today, the week, and then also the month. Okay, so that's the timesheet. I'm just going to minimise that for the time being. All right, so we're back on our matter. If I navigate to the financial summary, this is a great place that you can go to ascertain, okay, what is this client owing the firm? What have you got as unbilled WIP? Any unbilled disbursements? And then over to the right here, you've got a summary of what is unbilled and also what you've billed on this matter. Down the bottom here is the trust account for this particular matter. So what the balance is, what's the available balance, and any protected trust funds that you have. You've also got controlled money over to the right here. Now, all of these tabs here have hyperlinks. So if you wanted to view the trust ledger, you would just simply click on General Trust and it takes you straight over to that particular ledger. So it's just a lot easier to navigate on this financial summary. You can just click into those particular headings and it will take you straight to that ledger. All right, moving into time and fees. Okay, so time and fees will show you any entries that you've entered onto your timesheet, as soon as they turn green, like I showed you just before, this is where they're sitting. So as soon as they're green, they've been submitted over onto the ledger. You don't need to submit your timesheet at the end of the day. You don't need to save it. As soon as that entry goes green, it means that it's already waiting on the ledger for you to bill it. You can, of course, enter time entries directly onto the time and fees ledger. So up the top here, we've got new time entry, and you've also got the ability to add on a fixed fee at this stage as well. So if you're ready to do your bill and you realise you've left off maybe a day that you've spent in court, you forgot to put it on your timesheet, what you can do is just come straight into here and add in the time entry from the ledger. So if we click into new time entry, you've still got the timer here, so you can stop that and then manually put in your units. You've got the ability to change your billing rate if you needed to. Okay, you've got your description here. If it wasn't you that attended court, but you need to do the time recording for somebody else, you can change the name here as well. You also have the ability to change the billing status. So if it was not billable work, or if you didn't want to bill it at this stage, you can of course change that there. All right, the same goes for your fixed fees. So you just simply click on new fixed fee. Okay, put in your activity code and it will drop in the description, and then you can put in the amount here. All right, now you've also got the timesheet link here. So this is exactly the same as if we clicked it from the top here. So this is just a shortcut to that timesheet, but you can also open up the timesheet from here as well. All right, now on your financial summary tab, time and fees and office accounting tab, from all of those tabs, you can access the pre-billing guide. Now the pre-billing guide is an excellent report that you can print on a matter. And as the name says, it's a pre-bill guide, so you can absolutely use the pre-billing guide as a draft invoice. It will show you an itemization of your WIP. It will also show you what the debtors are. It'll show you what you've already billed the client and what sits there as unbilled. It also gives you unbilled disbursements and a trust balance. So it gives you a lot of information, and it is a really good report to use as a draft invoice. So that's available, as I said, from financial summary, time and fees, and office accounting. Okay, so these are all of our time entries here. All right, so you do have the ability to right click on these entries and change the status. So if there was something that we didn't want to bill at this stage, so let's just change this status to billable at a later invoice. Okay, so it's changed the status there. All right, so when I generate my bill, this particular entry will not be included in that bill. What you can also do when you right click, sorry, I'll just save out of there. It's not liking that. And cut. Okay, picking it back up. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's changed the status of that entry to billable at a later invoice. All right, what we can also do by right-clicking on these entries is you can apply an activity code to your time entry. You can move it to another matter. You can also move it to a different staff member. Okay, the history will just give you the versions of this particular time entry. And you can also delete. Now, don't be alarmed if you do accidentally delete time entries. What you can do is come up here to where it says billable all, drop this down and change the status to deleted, and it will then show you all of the deleted entries. And you do have the ability to undelete those entries. So if you do it by accident, don't stress. You can always bring it back in as an unbilled item. All right, so what we're going to do now, before we generate our bill, we're going to jump into office accounting. Okay, so from here, it brings you directly into your payments and debtors ledger. Now, what we see on payments and debtors is your payments ledger, which is any checks or EFT payments that have been made on behalf of your clients for disbursements. And then over to the right, you've got your debtors ledger. So this will show you any invoices that you've created and then any payments that have been received from your clients as payment of that invoice. So you've got your balances down the bottom here for those two particular ledgers. All right, so we're ready to do our bill now. So on office accounting, we have a new invoice tab. If we go back to time and fees, we've also got new invoice from there as well. So let's click on new invoice. So what this is going to show is any unbilled items that are sitting on our ledger. Okay, so underneath here, we've got professional fees. So if we scroll down there, and then we've got various disbursements sitting there as well. Okay, now what we can do at this stage is we can do a new time entry. Okay, we can drop this down, we can put on a new fixed fee. We can also enter in a new cost recovery. Okay, so you can do that directly from your invoice screen. What you can also do is right click on your time entries. You can add in any unbilled time and fees. So if we click on this, it'll then show you any time entries that you maybe haven't brought over to this particular bill. So if we drop this down at the top and we say billable all right, so here's two time entries that were marked at billable at a later invoice. So if we select this one, okay, it's now brought it in to this particular invoice. So it's as easy as that. If you have marked something to be billed at a later invoice, you can easily bring it in by right-clicking on one of your entries and add unbilled time and fees. The same goes for your unbilled cost recoveries. You can do that from here as well. Edit will just take you into that transaction and then you can make changes. So email to barrister. Okay, so you can make the changes there. And then if we right click on there again, you've got the ability to move to another staff member, apply activity code. You can simply remove it from this invoice. So maybe you're not ready to bill that particular item at this stage. Remove and set it to not billable. Remove and set to billable at a later invoice. Okay, so they're your actions there by right clicking on your entries there for your professional fees. Okay, you can double click and get into the entry that way as well. So you can go in and edit the wording. Okay, you can double click into the amounts and it just takes you back to your actual transaction and that's where you can change the amounts if you needed to. Okay, so up the top here, we've got invoice 2. Now this will be the debtor marked on your matter, which usually is your client, but if you've marked someone else as the debtor, it will bring in their details here. Okay, you've got an invoice number, which will auto-generate. Okay, if you needed to manually put it in, you can untick auto and type in the invoice number there. We've got the date of the invoice and the due date of the invoice. You've got a status here, so draft unapproved, draft approved, and final printed and sent. So final printed and sent is when you know it's gone to the client, you will come in and mark it as final. Now, what final printed and sent will do is it means that you can't delete the bill once you've finalised it. So with this one, it's still draft. I can come up here to the delete button at the top and I can just simply delete this entire invoice. All of these entries will move back onto the relevant ledgers as unbilled items. Okay, so it doesn't delete the entries, it's just simply deleting the invoice. Now, when I change this to final printed and sent, I lose the ability to delete, but I have the option to reverse the invoice. So the same thing will happen. All of the entries will move back onto the relevant ledgers as unbilled items, and then you can bill them at a later time. The only difference with delete and reverse is you will see the original invoice on your office accounting ledger. So if I just minimize that. So here's a good example. So here's an invoice that was done and then it's been reversed. So that's the only difference. If you delete, you won't see it here, but by reversing it, you can see that the entries are there. Okay, if we jump back into our invoice. All right, so if you're ready to invoice your client now, you've got a couple of options up here. You can send it to a Word document. So if your implementation consultant has set you up with a Word bill, you can send it to Word and it will populate in all of the information into that document and it will save back into your details and correspondence tab. Your other option here is to print, and this just will send it straight to a PDF document. Again, it'll bring in all of the information that you've got here, and then you can email it to your client. You've also got email up here, so very, very easy to email your invoices out to your client. The only difference with this PDF option is it's not going to save back into your details and correspondence pin like your Word document does. Okay, so once you're ready to finalise that, okay, I've printed it, I'm happy with it. We can then hit save and close. All right, and now my invoice sits here on my debtors ledger. And what I can see over here is under the payments ledger, these two disbursements that I had drawn from my office account have now moved over into the credits ledger because I've now billed them. Okay, so what we see here as the balances, there's a zero balance now under your payments ledger. And over here, we've now got a debtor sitting on this matter. So if we flick back into our financial summary, here's the debtor that we've just created. Okay, so this is broken down into your aging periods. So current, 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. Okay, and then we've got what we've billed over to the right there. Okay, so that's how you can create your invoices. All right, so I hope that's clear for everyone. Now what I'm going to take you through is just a couple of the reports that you can run in Leap to assist in your billing process. And I'll also show you how you can subscribe to some of those reports. So if I save and close out of my matter. All right, one other thing that I'll just show you now that we're here on the matter list is you can filter your matter list. So it shows you your matters with a debtor balance. Okay, so it's then going to filter this list. Every matter that I see here, I know that there is a debtor balance and I could then go through and chase those debtors. All right, now we're going to look at some reports. So navigating up to the menu button at the top left, down to reports. Okay, so your Leap reports will open up in a web browser. All right, I'm going to come straight to the Office tab. All right, the first couple of reports here are brilliant to run at your time of billing. All right, so your aged debtors, this will of course show you any matters that have an outstanding invoice. So you could review that at the time of billing to see what you've got outstanding from those clients that you're about to bill. You've got your aged disbursements. So this will provide a breakdown of unbilled disbursements. So it doesn't matter what disbursements you've done, it will include cost recoveries, any payments that you've made from your office account, anticipated disbursements, and any journals. You've got your aged WIP report. So again, brilliant to run at the time of, and cut. Okay, I'll pick it up again, and I think I'll start from aged WIP report. 1, 2, 3. Okay, another brilliant one that you can run at the time of billing is your aged WIP report. So this will provide a detailed breakdown of your work in progress that you've recorded, and it will break it down into the aging periods of your current 30, 60, 90 days. So another great one to run at the time of billing to see what WIP you've got on your matters. You've also got an invoices report here. This is great to run after you've done your invoices, of course. You can customise the date and see what invoices you've actually sent out. All right, to subscribe to some of the reports, you can come up to the top right here. If you hover over this button, it says subscription settings. So if we jump into that, come over to the left and click the plus button. All right, now this is where it'll show you there are a few reports here that you can subscribe to. So you can see you've got your aged WIP and your aged disbursements. You've also got your aged debtors report. So they're the three that I've just highlighted to you. So you can come into one of those. These are the normal filters that display on those individual reports. So you can select your filters from there. And it's here that you will select how often you want that report to be emailed to you. So daily, weekly and monthly are your options. You can put in the email addresses of where you want those reports sent, any CCs, any BCCs, the subject, so this is the subject of the email that's going to come to you, and then any comments that you want to put in there. So once you subscribe, you don't even need to think about issuing those reports. Leap will automatically email them to you, you know, either daily, weekly or monthly, whatever you've selected from there. Okay, that concludes our webinar today on invoicing and timesheet. I hope you've all got a lot out of that. Thank you very much for your time.